welcome to the Footy Mailbag. My name is Damo, and here with me is Clarky. How are you, my friend? That is the groans of the preseason escaping Clarky's face hole.
At least it's not January anymore.
Yeah, we can't use that line anymore.
We're going to have a new shirt, one for every month. Fuck, it's February. Coming soon to a mailbag store near you.
Our audience asked for it, and it's finally here. We're going to do a draft episode, and to help us, we have Lekdog. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be back. It's finally almost footy season when I'm getting wheeled out to do content.
It's nice that we can put you in the Hannibal Lecter, like the people mover with the face mask and everything.
Yeah, I can't have access to my hands while the webcam's on.
Yeah. We dust you off and stick you in a chair and put you on every podcast imaginable.
Podcast show.
It's
I
like
have to dictate articles into the computer.
It's like you never quit at all.
Well, let's not delve too deep into it.
Anyway, Lekdog, you are regarded as one of the draft experts for Supercoach. You are going to be writing articles for Code Sports, as you have done in previous seasons. When it comes to drafting, we get all these questions and we can answer them kind of based on how we feel from a classic sense. And obviously we play a bit of draft ourselves, but we don't run it or have the same ideologies as you about drafting. What are the key things to think about when you're drafting as opposed to picking a classic team?
Oh, mate, it's all vibes. You just make it up as you go along. Now, I'm joking and I'm vamping because I know that you asked me this question the other day and I sent you what I thought was a clever answer, and now I can't remember what I said. I guess for me, I tend to favour consistency, higher floors than I worry more about the floor than the ceiling of a player. I prefer a guy who's done it before than a guy who's up and coming, and typically I just try and spread my risk across the teams and across the park. So what I will say, we'll get into some more detail later on, but I try not to reach for players when I'm drafting. Specifically, try not to reach for ruckman. And definitely I don't reach for forwards. And when I say reach, it's like if everyone else is drafting guys who averaged 110 last year, I don't want to be dropping down to a guy who's averaging 100 just because he's a forward. I'd rather just bank the points in the midfield with everyone else.
That's fair enough. When you say you don't reach for ruckman or you don't reach for forwards, you've mentioned there that you don't sacrifice the average, you sort of get them where they're supposed to land. How late could you draft a forward, especially out of the crop that we have this year?
Yeah, I'm writing, or by the time this goes up, we'll have written a expert draft guide for Code Sports, but there's 49 players who last year averaged 101 or more. Only 3 of them are forwards. So if you're reaching for one of those guys, Harry Sheasel may be the exception because he averaged 107, so he's kind of that upper echelon. Other than him, you're really sacrificing. If you have the chance to pick, let's call it Matt Rowell, and instead you're trying to outthink your opponents and you're drafting Christian Petrarca, you're setting yourself up for failure. Even though there is limited forwards available, it's not worth jumping up for them. So there's quite a lot of guys that, each year, okay, let's put it this way. In a standard 14-team league, 5-7-1-5, which is a pretty standard format, for on-field players, you need 70 defenders, 98 midfielders, 14 rucks, and 70 forwards across the whole competition. Do you really think that jumping up and reaching for Petrarca, who might average 100, to fill one of the 70 on-field forward spots is going to put you ahead of taking a second bite at a 110 guy? I don't think it is. And forwards are probably the players you're going to stream the most. So I haven't answered your question there. I think you can go relatively late on getting them. When everyone's starting to draft guys who average around 100, if, say, I don't know, Cozzy Pickett's still on the board or Dylan Moore's on this board, that's when you can probably look to pick those guys up. But yeah, people do tend to pick forwards early and rucks early as well, probably earlier than they need to.
Can I ask, if you were giving people advice who maybe haven't done a draft before, or it's their first time sort of engaging with the format, what, obviously these are all in draft tactics, but what do you think as far as pre-research people should be looking out for to indicate the types of players that they want to get?
I mean, it's pretty similar to your classic stuff. It's like, okay, role change. So honestly, if you sort from highest rank to lowest rank, you're probably still going to be fine. You're probably going to be okay. It's the pickups you make during the season. But if you want to get that edge, you're looking at role changes. You're looking at guys who have been acquired from other teams for a specific role. My big example last year was I was huge on John Noble because he was acquired by Gold Coast to fill a specific role. He comes out and averages 96 across the year or whatever it is. So if you can identify those guys, that'll give you an edge. Positional changing, that'll give you an edge. But again, it's not about overrating these guys. It's about appropriately rating them. And if you're bumping a guy up year-on-year average based on role change or new team, like you probably want to conservatively add like maybe 10 points, 15 points, anything more, unless they're becoming the main ruck role, you're probably going to end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Yes, that's a good mix of finding consistency and edging.
Yeah, edging's my favorite. And ADP as well, average draft position, that's a good indicator of where people are going in drafts, and then you will see the guys who maybe you've forgotten about, well, because they didn't average much last year or they missed the year completely. Nick Newman, they'll be higher up the ADP than, say, they would be based on average. So average draft position's another thing to use.
Yeah, kind of related to that question. When we're picking a classic team, lots of people like to pick the next breakout, the next big star who's going to move into that next average bracket. When you are picking in draft and you have that player in mind, are you picking them based on what you expect them to average or what they have averaged before? Like, are you kind of are you anticipating the jump, or do you just sort of get them where they are?
Yeah, look, there is an element of projection, obviously, in there. And if you're doing pre-draft rankings yourself, it is a worthwhile exercise of sort of ranking, even if you don't do it sort of 1 to 100, you do it like by position, just listing your top 20 in each position, because you'll work out pretty quickly, like, oh, actually, James Sicily, he's not going to be that good this year, right? So you drop him down, and then naturally, well, I think, I don't know who's someone that moved clubs in the off season. Anyway, Sam Flanders, shit, I think he's going to jump up. He's probably slightly different because he has a history of scoring. You do have to add in some projection, but you do it realistically. So, like, as I said, you're sort of adding 10 points, particularly with role change and moving clubs. Bit more difficult with the breakout contenders that you're talking about. Like, there's no way I had Naz as high as he deserved to be last year, because I just think it's hard to predict that jump. And I do factor in sort of the end of the season, the last sort of half of the season, the last 5 games, finals. I factor that all in when I'm looking at players. But even then, someone might go gangbusters for the last 5 games of last year, and then because the club's preparing them for a new role, and then actually in the trade period, we've actually acquired someone. So there is an element of, if you're going for breakouts and you're going for guys with heaps of upside, it's an element of just knowing the environment and knowing the landscape and having enough experience to know pretty safely what's going to happen. If you're a newbie and a beginner when it comes to Supercoach, honestly, I'd just stick to the guys you know, and you're probably going to be doing okay as well.
last week, me and Clarky tried to help and answer a question for one of our listeners. He wanted to know how to decide the draft order for a new league that he had set up, among other things, which we will get to in just a second. But when you're starting a new league, what's a way that you can decide the draft order without it just being randomized? Like, obviously you can randomize it, but what's like a fun way that you would just decide a draft order?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up a website we use. What I will say is you probably want to avoid something that involves like a physical skill, because you might be playing with people of different abilities, different ages. So I don't like anything sort of super physical. There's websites like we use 100-Yard Rush, which is essentially an NFL style player running across the screen at a randomized pace. There's websites like that. I liked your ideas of sort of Mario Kart. I wasn't in this Dynasty League at the time, but my NBA Dynasty League, the first ever thing they did, they wrote everyone's names on a paper plate and threw them in with they wrote a number on a paper plate, everyone's paper plate, and just kind of threw them into the distance. And then everyone one by one went and grabbed one, and that was the number that they were on. So like you can do anything. I really liked the sort of the Mario Kart stuff. You don't want it to take too long. I like the one where you pick a horse in a race, that sort of thing. There's some fun stuff you can do, but just make sure everyone is able to participate. If not everyone could be there in person, find something that you can do online.
And another part of the question was fun, but not humiliating last place punishments. You obviously want whoever comes last place to still participate the following season. So how do you still sort of drill into them that they came last, you came last, but then bring them back for next season without, totally ruining that relationship?
Yeah. It's an interesting. I'm in leagues where coming last is a very fearful thing that you don't want to do. And it's a range. Actually, in my NBA fantasy league, if you come last, you have to have a shootout from all these different positions, and the amount of baskets you score determines the severity of your punishment. And it's like anything from fake tan at the draft night to sitting at a McDonald's for 24 hours. For every burger you eat, it takes off an hour. I mean, that one's a pretty classic one, I think. We've got in my EPL fantasy league, which, by the way, I have no idea about anything about EPL. If you come last, you've got to get like a coin-sized tattoo. That's one of the options you can choose, and the tattoo has to be related to something that happened at the season. And then there's just other stuff like, the person. I don't like the monetary ones that cost money, but people, you shout at the bar for the night, or you have to bring everyone their drinks. I think you guys covered some good options last week.
And then the last one that he wanted some input for was how to encourage trading, in-season trading, to get, the league moving around and, active.
Yeah, difficult, a hard one. A couple of things that draft doctors have suggested over the years are like building trades into the rules. So you can't participate in finals unless every single player you drafted is no longer on your team, is a good one. And then there's my favorite one, which is every week, if you beat the other team, if you win, you can trade any one of your player for any one of their player, but the player you are trading has to have scored more than the player they are trading. So, i.e., you beat someone and you had Cody Waitman go nuts and score 120, but Zach Butters only scored 99. Well, guess what? You can trade Cody Waitman for Zach Butters. That's a fun one as well.
Interesting. Yeah, like when we had the question last week, we kind of threw out options, but we didn't have a lot to offer in terms of, someone who's done it a lot through different formats. You've got some you've given us some good options and our listeners some good options if they ever want to go there themselves.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to try and manipulate, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we covered that last week, where we kind of spoke about how the internalized value of players is often skewed with whoever you want to trade with or who is wanting to trade with you. So you kind of end up with the people who are like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. Or the people who are like, whoa. I need these numbers to match up perfectly, or
Yeah, well, it's actually why Dynasty Leagues are easier to trade in, even though the stakes are higher, because it has long-term implications. But the ability to just throw in draft picks to, like, even it up, or you're happy to lose a guy who is averaging 100 because he's 35 and you want a guy who's 21 only averaging 70s. It's actually easier in Dynasty Leagues and Keeper Leagues to do trades, to be honest.
nothing I love more than throwing in a 4th rounder.
Oh, just to get the deal, make me feel like I'm winning the deal.
Yeah, I think I've actually had many conversations in the league that we both share, like, that have ended with can you chuck me a 4th rounder just so I can feel a little bit better?
Yeah.
Make sure you go and check out thefootymailbag.net. We've got some written content going up in this preseason. We've already got stuff up there for you to go and read. Nate has put up this week the under 5% club. So players owned by under 5% of teams currently who he thinks should be getting a bit more love. So go and check that out and make sure you keep clicking back for updates. Lekdog, we've got a few questions that people have thrown at us, so hopefully you'll help us answer these. First one comes from Wayne. Who's an under-the-radar selection that may be available later than we expect?
Yeah, okay, later than we expect. So I'm going... How late do you guys think late is?
Well, you shared with me a list the other day and I couldn't find Jai Caldwell on it. And then when I finally did find him, there were players ahead of him that I was a bit surprised by. So is he a guy that could potentially fall down the order a bit because people aren't expecting him to be as high as someone else might rank him? I think that's what we're kind of talking about here.
I mean, Jai Caldwell, he's probably going to be 5th or 6th round. Midfielder is going to probably average 100 if he stays on the park. He's a good one. I think people will probably forget about Caleb Daniel because he had his time in the light last year as a forward and as a cheap sort of classic player. So I think he might get forgotten about a bit. It's guys like Harry Himmelberg will probably fall later. But if you want some real out of the box sort of players, a guy like Taylor Adams, he's not going to get drafted, but maybe you consider him. Tanner Bruin is a guy that I think is actually going to be pretty decent this year. Jack Bowes is another one from Geelong. So there are some guys that will just pop up and maybe not even get drafted, but will provide value for you. Elliot Yeo is another one that people are probably going to forget about because he didn't play last year. I think you'll get him for some value. And if he's healthy or half healthy, he's going to score more than, people going in the draft around him.
And the second part of Wayne's question is, who's a not obvious name that you're avoiding?
Who's a not obvious name? So who's someone that's generally highly rated that I'm not going near?
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't really want to be a part of either Tom DeConning or Rowan Marshall. Not particularly sure how to sort of rank them or fit them in. I'm just seeing who else I've dropped out of my top 100 year on year. Go to Code Sports to read that article.
If Rowan Marshall is going to be a key forward type for most of the year for St Kilda, when he gets forward status, he might be a guy you pick up later or want to trade for later. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I'd like to see how that mix works before I get into any of the St Kilda ruckmen.
Look, I think that's fair. I've got a bunch of names that I've dropped down the rankings, like Paddy Cripps and Clayton Oliver and Lachie Neale, and they're pretty obvious names. I'm not necessarily avoiding them. I just don't think I'm going to rate them as highly as other people will. I think Lachie Neale's probably my biggest answer to this question, just because it can't last forever. Some question marks. Who knows what's going to happen there?
And a good segue to the next question here from Jevs. How are you ranking the rucks with the new rules?
Look, I'm not particularly concerned about the new rules. I'm not totally convinced they're going to make that much of an impact. I think if they do make an impact, it's going to be pretty universal. So I guess the difference for me this year is I've got my tier 1 rucks not as high as my tier 1 midfielders, whereas last year they were sort of mixing together in my draft rankings. So I've bumped them down slightly just as a in theory, there's going to be slightly less ruck contests, even if it's only a couple of points. It does devalue them slightly. But to be honest with you, I'm not really taking it into too much consideration because the way I do my rankings with Ruckman, with everyone, is I put the players into tiers, and even if those tiers all collectively drop down slightly, I think they're still going to exist. I got Tristan Cherry, Max Gawn, Brodie Grundy in that top tier, and then guys like Tom DeConnick and Rowan Marshall down in the middle in tier 4, and then at the very bottom I've got Mark Blitzarves and Toby Conway, and I think that's going to be the same regardless of how the ruck rules sort of play out. What I will say is, actually, there's another question about Ruckman on Twitter, so I'll wait to answer that one because I think the two things tie into each other.
Clarky, how's Xavier Lindsay going to go this season for Melbourne? That's not a question, I'm just asking you.
Yeah, probably fine. He'll still continue to be good. I don't know how much opportunity specifically he might get. I think there probably is a few more players that are just maturing a little bit quicker than he is. Obviously, him being a part of that core midfield group and running on the wing would be good. He's been doing well in the preseason training, but I think he's still going to be really important for Melbourne going forward. I don't know if this is the year where he sort of goes off or hits an upper echelon, unlike people expect of, say, Harvey Langford, who's a little bit more of a ready body for the AFL. I think Xavier Lindsay has just needs a little bit more in the oven. But I'm really hot on him. I think he'll be really important for Melbourne long term.
Because the question that we have comes from Matthew. He's been offered pick 9 Xavier Lindsay and next year's first by a bottom 2 side last season for Colby McKercher. And a bit of extra information, he expects the team that's offering to be a bottom 2 to 3 side again. So 2 top 10 picks and Xavier Lindsay for Colby McKercher, essentially. Lekdog, does that sound like a good deal to you?
Yeah, I saved it for the podcast, but I'm taking that deal every day of the week. Now,
Yeah.
I historically am a take what you know, and we know Colby McKerch is good, but he also has only been good for short bursts of time. Getting pick 9 and pick 3 and Xavier Lindsay, I'm taking that to the bank.
Yeah. Turn the 9 and pick whatever it is. The top 10 pick and a top 5 pick is probably really. Colby McKercher isn't going to change necessarily the entire fate of this other team's side, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm interested to see why that other side's actually doing it, to be honest. I'd probably rather hold the picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like a pretty good deal. So if that's what they've offered, absolutely take that. Now, Lekdog, you mentioned that there is a second ruck question. Jevs has a 10-man league. How he wants to know who your top 6 ruckmen are for a 10-man league.
Okay, that's not even the question I was thinking of. So let me pull up my my ruck stuff. Okay, yes, I see the question. 10-man league, top 6 is potentially an extra 5 points over the bottom. Yeah, look, it is, right? So this is what I sort of touched on earlier. Yes, the top 3 ruckmen are better than the next 3 ruckmen, but if you're drafting sort of correctly, it doesn't matter. You should be drafting based on the best scorers available at your draft selection, not worrying about if they are a ruck when other people have a ruck. So of guys that average, we'll call them, so 121 plus, there's 3 ruckmen, there is 2 midfielders, there is no forwards and no defenders. So it pretty much doesn't matter if you'd miss out on one of those three ruckmen, the big three, which I'm going to call Gorn, Grundy, and Cherry. If you miss out on them, well, then you go for one of the midfielders, which is Bont. Well, he's probably already gone, and whoever else averaged 121 last year. I don't have it in front of me. If you don't get one of those five guys, well, then you just go to the next tier, and you've got to make the decision: are you going one of the jet midfielders, or are you going one of the next best ruckman? I'm personally probably going one of the jet midfielders because I think it's highly unlikely someone who took a Gorn is, with their next pick, going to take Tim English if he's available. I wouldn't stress about it. Just pick within the range of guys available at the pick.
If you've made it this far in the episode, here's a public league code specifically for our podcast listeners, 20-team league. The code is 497081, first in, best dressed. When that league fills up, we'll put out another code somewhere, so keep a lookout.
Well, like, how's your, we've talked a lot about draft, but how are you going how's your approach for Classic this year if you're participating? Non-existent in February?
Same as always, mate. Make one team and roll with it. No, look. I made my first team. I had some vibe picks in there, like what's his name, John Noble. I actually really like my vibe team. Currently, I've got my blind ranked team, so I picked a team without knowing the names or the teams of the players I was picking. All I had was their price and their like last year's performance and the last 2 years' averages. And I picked a team based off that. So it's got guys like Colby McKercher, Nick Newman, Jordan Ridley, which will upset you in it, Matt Rowell, Errol Goulden, Sam Walsh came out. Darcy Parish is the biggest lock of all time. Obviously, I'll have to drop Sam Draper now that he's dead. But yeah, I'm going full mid-price madness. I think we focus too much on guns and rookies, and I know why we do, but in this new world where we're given a million trades and we've got an extra spot on the bench that gives us a cheat code of hopefully not copying a zero, the last sort of 3 years, I've ended up around the top 1,000, and I've always had at least three, like, pseudo or if not full primos sitting on the bench. So if you just hold guys, even if you thought a guy was going to go 110, but he's going 100 to 105, and you're like, fuck, I've got to get rid of him. You just got to hold him, and you'll end up ahead of the pack. I usually around the buys am like 30,000th, and then from buys to the end of the season jump up to sort of that top 1,000, and it's purely because I've got trades left. I've had, while they've been underperforming, guys on field, they've outperformed the rookies, and that's how I attack the season. So I don't even really think your starting team matters that much, if I'm being honest with you.
One thing I like about you, Lekdog, and there's a lot of things I like about you, but this one specifically is
it's just one. It's just this one.
You value the green dot. If a player is selected and they've got the green dot next to their name when the teams are selected, you generally hold on to them. You don't move anyone unless they are injured or out.
Yeah, you don't need to. You don't need to move them on. Even if a rookie, let's say they've kind of capped their points, they might lose a couple of grand this week, but they haven't made that much cash. It's like, the guys who are like, they were 120K when you bought them. He's now 220K. He's only made 100K. He's played 7 weeks. He's only got your 65 points. He's still playing. I just hold him and build around it. Like, eventually they'll get a price bump where it's worth upgrading. But for me, availability is key, not panicking. If a primo you picked is not performing but he isn't injured, you just hold him, back him all the way. There's some exceptions to this, of course, but broadly, honestly, you'll if rank's what you're worried about or winning league, you'll perform a lot better than most people if you've got trades left towards the end of the season and they don't. And it's pretty simple. It kind of guides how I attack Supercoach.
Just flipping back to draft quickly, because you mentioned Sam Draper there and injuries. How much weight do you put into an injury when you are selecting your team? Like, if someone has slid all the way down and their injury is only going to keep them out for 2 or 3 weeks of the beginning of the season, would you take a late flyer on them, stash them on your bench, or would you wait and pick them up once you know that they have a return date?
No, absolutely. With sort of my last couple of picks, I'll take some guys who are injured. I'm not going to reach too hard. So a guy like Sam Draper is interesting. Originally, I had him in my top 100. I think he was probably about 75th, I'm going to guess. I don't remember. He gets injured. He falls out of my top 100, but he's still in consideration. But to be honest with you, I'm going to build my team on the assumption that he misses more time than they say he will, which means if I've got my 5 or whatever it is, 7 primos, 5 defenders, 1 ruck, and then I've got 4 forwards, I've still got 1 spot and he's still there, I'll probably pick him up because he's going to be valued. But to be honest, most people are going to go earlier on that sort of injured player than I am. He's not ruled out, but it's just like you just got to adjust your expectations because wins are really important in draft, obviously. Less important, I would say, in Classic for most people. Banking wins early means your chance to play finals are a lot higher. So yeah, like for instance, last year, was Zach Butters, did he miss the start of the year was he out for a chunk of time to start the year? Am I remembering that correctly?
He was. He only played, he played after, I'm trying to bring it up now quickly. He played after round 4.
Yeah, so he missed the first few weeks. I think he was probably projected to miss longer than that as well, if I'm remembering correctly. People were still picking him up around that first and second round to hold him, and I'm just like, I would just rather the extra 300, we'll call it 330 points from those first 3 games that he missed on field, and hopefully getting 3 wins in that time. So yeah, you got to prioritize points on field and winning in draft quite significantly.
Fair enough there. Hey, Lekdog, thanks for joining us to answer all these draft questions and put a bit of draft into perspective for us. Clarky, thank you for also being here. You had a bit to say, but kind of just in the background there.
Wow, fucking waited the whole episode to fucking take a shot. Well, okay, well, you want me to talk? I'll tell you my favorite thing about you. Kissable head. Wow.
It's been in the Shino Borlo. I will say, and this is why I hate doing podcasts, I talk too much because I go straight back to like the old days. So I'm a bad guest to have on. I've got a lot to say and no way of filtering or condensing it. But if you want to,
absolutely fine. Replacing my nonsense with some actually experience-based information is probably beneficial for all of our listeners.
Well, I also think I don't sound very enthusiastic, which is probably because I'm tired because I'm moving house. But so like hopefully people are still listening, I guess is the point. But if they do want to hear more, Pommy and Oz on YouTube, I've been doing a video a week with him talking Supercoach. He's never played it. I'm teaching him how, and then Code Sports for various draft content. Follow me on Twitter. Not that I check it, at Lekdog. There's no point following me on Twitter. Follow me somewhere else.
Follow Alexi Does.
Oh yeah, on YouTube.
Yeah,
I did a video the other day that had people actually watched it. It was quite nice.
Yeah, it's really good. You make really good YouTube content where like he plays with his little action figures or whatever.
My little war dolls.
His little war dolls. He does little paintings on them.
Anyway,
sorry. I'm just remembering the first time I visited Lex's house, and it was beautiful. I love you, Lex, so much, and you would give me a tour, and the most important part of the tour was you showing me the cabinet with all of your painted armies in them, and they were the coolest thing ever. And I was like, I cannot shit on this as a hobby because it's fucking amazing.
There's 2 cabinets now.
Ooh, moving house, upgrading.
Anyway, that's it for this episode of the What was that?
Damo, what are you painting?
I'm painting your dreams.
I will ask you this, Damo. You can cut this if you want. Do you get much Warhammer coming through the shop at work?
No, we actually don't take any of that sort of stuff. because
Too prospecting.
the value is too subjective.
Interesting. Good to know.
That might give people a bit of an idea of where I work. I'm not going to reveal exactly.
The
Anyway,
bank.
so if
He
you want
works
to
at
see
the
a-
bank.
What do you mean we're out of money?
He really wants to end the episode.
Damo has other things to go do.
If you haven't given us a rating on your listening platform of choice, please do so. It helps new listeners find us. You can find us on social media at Footy Mailbag, at the Footy Mailbag for Facebook. On pretty much, what am I saying? You guys have got me all messed up. I'm Damo SC on Twitter. Clarky, where can people find you? You
can find me at Quantum JC, or hey guys, how about on 3? We all just say our full address and phone number. What?
I mean, it'll work for Lekdog because he's
2.
not going to be there for much longer.
Yeah.
Come to my house, actually, 61 Road. Come over.
Yeah, 2A Road, Springvale.
Oh Jesus! Oh, you guys are giving me more editing than I want to do.
But that was fine. If people can go there, they can give their roofs back its old appeal with a visit from the roof seal. But you'll be visiting the seal. Roof Seal, sponsor us.
Oh God! Thanks for listening. We'll talk next time.
Love you. Bye.